Hello, happy Friday. Welcome back to Adenac Accent Coaching. My name's Allison. I just want to talk a little bit about the R sound in English and how coming to the R sound in English from R sounds in French from other languages can pose a difficulty and why. So first of all, the R sound in English has a few different versions, let's say. So there's the R that can lead into vowels, like right. There's the R that can end vowels, like fear. There's the R in the middle of something, like carry. And depending on what other dialect or what other language you're coming from, the R will sound different. So for example, let's say I'm British and I want to say care. Most British accents don't actually have that R sound at the end there. That's like care. And it's not that the R is gone, but it's that it sounds different and it's represented by a longer vowel sound. So it's not just cat with no R, it's care, and that is the R sound. So why can a British person say carry if they can't say care? And that's because the R has shifted to the syllable, the beginning of the next syllable. So if you can say re, then you can say carry because the R isn't ending the care, the R is starting the re. I hope that makes sense. Listening to specific accents, like Doja Cat, for instance, there's a song, she's talking about Tia Tamara. I say Tamare with mare, the R is baked right into that vowel. But when she says it, she says Tamara, Tamara, Tamara. Twins like Tia Tamara. That's the lyric in the song I'm thinking of. So that is like the British R, right? It's not ending the first syllable, it's starting the next syllable. So this R, depending on your region, will kind of jump from the end of one syllable to the beginning of another syllable. There's also R from other languages. So there's trills in other languages. There's also flaps in other languages that represent the R sound in English that actually would be a T sound or a flap T sound in English. So for example, a Russian speaker saying cream, for instance, might say cream, cream with a t flap T. And that sounds like that's an R in Russian English, but in Canadian English, that sounds like the flap T that we might have between like butter, the flap T. So there's an example of an R sound in another language being a T sound in English. In Spanish, you have trills and you have regular R sounds in Spanish. So like perro, trill, versus pero. That's just one R. So that pero, that R in Spanish is a flap T in English. So pero in Spanish would be like pedo in English, like pedophile, basically. So you have to be careful about how you pronounce stuff because it can kind of accidentally sound like another word. The R in English, most of the time, is at the front of the mouth, using the tip of the tongue. So you can either do an R that has your tongue tip curling a little bit, and that creates tension, and then the sound travels on either side of your tongue and goes through your kind of flared lips, r, to make the R sound. You can also do something called mountain tongue or a bunched R tongue, to where you're pulling your tongue like this and making tension here. That also creates the musculature or the muscle tension required to have that R sound to come out. So whether you do a retroflex R or a bunched R, you're creating a constriction but not a full closure in order to have the sound waves change. I don't think a lot of people actually think of this, but any movement that you make in your speech apparatus could lead to changes in sound waves that bring about a different sound. So even just clenching, tensing, rounding, flaring, anything that you might, any sort of tension that you might do could lead to a sound in change and a sound in perception of what the sound is. There's a lot of sounds that we make with our bodies, our speech apparatus, that aren't related to speech, right? Yawning, laughing, sighing. These things are non-speech, but they're also communicative. So we've used this apparatus that we've been given. First of all, it was this apparatus for humans came about to breathe. The first evolutionary step that happened in this is the hole that allowed humans to breathe came to be. And then that hole for oxygen also became an intake for food. And eventually in humans, evolution differentiated our stomach hole from our breath hole, basically. And now we have our esophagus, which goes to the stomach, behind the windpipe, and then we have the windpipe or the trachea that goes to the lungs. So these two things developed for us to breathe and to eat. But because humans are so creative, we've taken this apparatus and turned it into a communicative, a source of communication. So we've taken, our eating and our breathing apparatus, and we've made it for speech. And because of that, because we used it for speech, evolution made our lips, our teeth, our tongue finer over the years. If you compare non-human primates to human primates, we humans have very fine teeth, lips, tongue structures in our face, in our mouth, and our throat to create speech. If you look at an ape, the tongue, the teeth, the lips are not as refined. And that's because they haven't had the thousands of years of evolution to shape, to specialize, basically. So I'm not saying that like apes need to be able to speak, but I'm just saying, like, compared to us, apes don't have fine enough muscle control, motor control of their speech apparatus to create language. Apes can use sign language. They're not using it like generatively, like they're not using it like a language where you have a finite amount of items to describe an infinite amount of ideas, but they're using it as language. They're using it to communicate. So the communication is the issue, and the way that we go about solving that depends on our capabilities. So sign language came to be because people weren't able to hear or speak. It could be both. These different communication systems came to be. So it's not just that language or speech is a special communication system of language. It's just one of the modalities that we use to express language. So it's not the case that sign language is any more or less a language than written English, than spoken English, than any other language. So the problem of communicating is solved by using our resources, our apparatus, to communicate, to make sounds that are agreed upon in our culture, our community, in our language group that mean this special thing. And then we've agreed on that. We know what we're talking about. That's how we communicate. So as long as ideas are shared, it's actually not that important how they're packaged, although that's my entire job, so I shouldn't really say that. It does matter how your speech is packaged if you are in a situation where you could be judged negatively for having off-target speech or off-target pronunciation. Wow, I started talking about ours, and now I talked about apes, non-human primates. It's very exciting to go off on a tangent. Nobody's here to stop me. Oh yeah, okay. I wanted to talk about R in French now. I talked about R in Spanish, right? We have perro or pero. In French, the R's are done at the back of the mouth, the back of the tongue, using the tongue and the soft palate, or the velopharyngeal port is what it's called in linguistics. So this little flap here and the back of your tongue will go and create that R sound. So English speakers won't be very good at this because it's a non-speech movement for us. It sounds like we're like clearing our throat or something. So this back of the tongue R, this it will be voiced or voiceless depending on the surrounding environment. So if you're going to say cream, because k is voiceless, the R will be voiceless, right? Crème, in French anyways, crème. And in English, cream. So I'm only voicing for the vowel. The k and the r sound are voiceless. If it's a voiced consonant before the R, like G, then you will have a voiced R, like grand, grand, granny. That r will be voiced at the same time. So it's the same movement as with crème to say grand, grand, whatever, but you have your vocal folds activated. The voicing aspect is like a layer that's placed on everything else. So that's probably why it's more difficult for French speakers to do English R's, because they're used to doing it at the back of the tongue with this scraping thing, and the R in English is way at the front of the tongue. It sounds like sounds like it could be any other sound in any other language. So, but for us, we think of it as an R. I hope that made sense, this long rant. Going off on a tangent. I better stop now. But thanks for tuning in and listening to me. See you next time.